So we're back on My Money channel because I believe they're going to screw with your money. And by they, I mean Rachel Reeves on behalf of the government. And so I'm going to show you some contradictory clips before and after, tear them apart as inconsistent statements, which is what we do as lawyers. I'll show you what she said beforehand, so you can feel free to hold her to it. Although, obviously, she's going to change her mind about some of it. I am pretty sure of that. So, as I mentioned, we're on My Money channel, so thank you all so much for 57,000 subscribers here. If you would like my sort of free guidance and input, not being preachy, just all the lessons that I've learned, things that have gone terribly wrong for me over the years, and then when I've put things right and made them work, made businesses successful and all that sort of stuff, then please do subscribe. Let's get this channel to 100,000 along with all my others. I can get another one of those on the wall at the back there. We're getting quite the collection over there. Thank you all so much. Genuinely, I really appreciate it. Now, what I don't appreciate are these contradictory statements where, on the one hand, they say, we're absolutely not going to raise taxes, but then they proceed to do so in so many areas. And I'm going to show you a couple that I think I'm right already. But beforehand, let's look at this contradictory clip from before. And in the second half of the video, please do stick around. There's a couple of life lessons that we can take from all this. Again, not being preachy, just things that I feel that I've learned not to do, or things that I've learned are useful to do, and I'll share those with you in the second half of the video. Now, let's take a look at this. Listen to this.
For public services for the duration of this Parliament. Public services now need to live within their means, because I'm really clear I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes.
Several months later.
Could you repeat the statement that you made to the CBI? I'm really clear I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes.
Well, look, I think everyone can see that in the last year that the world has changed.
In the last year, the world has changed. So she was absolutely clear after increasing taxes by some £40 billion. She said, I'm really clear, which is a thing that they like to say recently. I'm not coming back with more borrowing and more taxes. So let's have a look at some contradictory statements, shall we? There's the first one that I showed you on the VAT, where she refused to rule out any increase or change in the way VAT is applied. I've given you my thoughts on that in my previous video. I'll link below if you didn't get to see that one. But just a brief snippet of it. This is where she point blank refused to give a yes/no answer.
Are you going to, can you rule out increasing VAT? It's a yes or no?
What I'm saying to you
No,
is
I've
that
asked the
we made
question,
those
can you
commitments
rule
and we made
out
them
increasing
for
VAT?
a reason.
I know, but can you...
She's resting on that manifesto, doubtless for some kind of excuse to justify whatever she does or doesn't do hereafter. But if it's not a straightforward yes/no question answer, then I can assure you it's going to be something less favourable. But one example, here's just one example. Then I'm going to give you a run of different clips put together, which is abundantly clear. But here's one example. In fact, I'll run that other clip first. Let me bring that on screen first. Have a listen to these clips back to back and tell me that this wasn't abundantly clear that they are not going to raise taxes further. Let's make this a really big clip and put me to the side. Listen to this.
All of our plans are fully costed and fully funded. And that means no tax rises for working people. We're not going to be raising tax on working people.
We will not raise taxes on working people.
We're not putting up taxes on working people.
Labour government will not raise income tax, will not raise national insurance contributions, and will not raise VAT.
We're not going to increase tax on working people, and that means
that Labour will not be putting up taxes on working people.
But no, we don't think that we should be raising taxes on working people.
There'll be no additional taxes on households under a Labour government.
Let me be absolutely clear. We will not raise tax for working people.
I will not raise taxes on working people.
We have said we're not raising taxes on working people.
And we're not going to be increasing taxes on working people.
We will not be increasing taxes on working people.
There is a commitment not to increase taxes on working people.
I don't believe it's fair to raise taxes on working people, not further increase personal taxes
to lower that burden on working people.
There's nothing in our manifesto which requires additional taxes.
It's complete garbage. We will not be raising taxes on working people. Not going to be raising taxes on working people.
And this is not even finished, and I'm not even going to put you through the rest, but you get the point. There's another minute and whatever of that. Now, repeatedly and repeatedly, they would say that they are not increasing taxes on working people. You heard it enough times. Now, allow me to show you one contradictory statement. Now, this is in a very specific sector, which I've mentioned. I mentioned the gaming sector by way of example, because it's not currently charging VAT. Have a listen to this.
Well, I'm the Chancellor that set up the review of gambling taxes. No other Chancellor has done that, because I do think there's a case for gambling firms paying more. I talked to a number of businesses from all sectors of the economy, including the gaming sector. On a personal level, I've never betted in my life on anything, but they make an important contribution to the economy, but they should pay their fair share of taxes.
Now, regardless of your views on the application of tax to gambling services, for example, gaming operators do not generally charge VAT on bets by way of example, but without going into the specifics, regardless of your views, if the Chancellor increases taxes or applies taxes where they are not currently applied, that is an increase in taxes. Now, just as the application of VAT to private school fees, many of those parents sending children there are working parents. They work multiple jobs in order to send those children to those private schools. The application of VAT there is absolutely 100% categorically a tax on working people. And similarly, applying the employer national insurance increases, this is ultimately an increase in taxes on quite literally working people, because increasing those costs to the business is going to ultimately increase a cost on those individual workers. And so this is just really unacceptable. Again, regardless of your views about the taxing of gambling services and so on, regardless of those views, this is a contradiction in the starkest terms of the number of little clips that I just showed you, where they were quite adamant that they were not increasing taxes, all these kind of things on working people. And either way, I think that's quite terrible. Now, I'm going to come back in just a moment with some sort of life tips and wisdom that I've picked up along the way from many other people, and things that I have applied in my life over the years, certainly after the unsuccessful things that have happened in my life. I'll tell you about those at some point, and how I've changed those things around. Be back with those in just a moment.
Now, just as a reminder, in case you missed it, this government continuously seems to be looking for ideas and excuses as to how to introduce digital ID. The last Labour government tried it, and then it was shut down by Conservatives, and this government seems to be trying it again. And this is terrifying for everybody. It's all a matter of control, because who controls the data controls the person. And there are lots of companies that have lots of information on you, but they really should be working on a data minimization principle. And this might even go against the Article 8 rights, the right to a private family life. So I personally think this has significant consequences. But if you take digital ID seriously, and you take your personal identity seriously, I strongly urge you to do what you can to erase yourself from companies who you don't want to have your information stored on their databases and on their servers and so on. And so that is where I introduce a partner with my channel called Incogni, who specializes in helping you to be erased and forgotten from the internet. The right to be forgotten, if you will. It's not just an automated service, it is also a customized and targeted service. You can tell them from whom you wish to remove your information, which websites you want to remove your information. Some of them are stubborn about it, but Incogni will persist and they will get it removed for you. It is a fantastic done-for-you service, and you can use multiple email addresses and they'll help to remove your information from the internet. If they can't find you, they can't harm you. And of course, as they're a partner to my channel here, Daniel Shensmith, you can use that code Daniel Shensmith at the link in the description below. That will get you 60% off the annual plan, and you'll get access to a dashboard, and you'll see all these hundreds of companies removing you from their servers and just making you that little bit safer, knowing you are erasing yourself from the internet under your right to be forgotten, keeping you that little bit safe. So don't forget the code Daniel Shensmith at the link below, and you'll be so glad you signed up.
Okay, so now let's talk about some general life wisdom and principles here. These are things that I've sort of picked up along the way, picked up from other people, and you may not even realize you're doing it. Now, this is inspired in part by all of those clips from Labour ministers who I genuinely believe were saying what they think people want to hear so that they get elected into power. And here we are. Now, I've been criticised for talking about Labour, but I decided to talk about them very briefly at the point of the election and a few of the principles and the budget and etc. that they came out with. And I continued talking about it, firstly because it seemed to be quite popular. So popular, in fact, that I set up another YouTube channel, Off the Record, and I now talk about it here as well on my money channel, in inverted commas. But there are points of sort of wisdom and life tips and tricks here. And the fundamental one is this. On the one hand, they, I think, have said what they believe will get them into power. They've said what they think is right. Now, a lot of people do this in their own life. They tell themselves things that they think are right. They say the things that they think are right to do. They say they're going to do things that they think are the right things to do, but perhaps for the wrong reason. Perhaps they don't follow through with them. Perhaps they haven't planned them out. They haven't looked realistically. They haven't looked to whether those things will really fit their lifestyle and choices, whether they'll really fit their goals and plans moving forward, and whether they can actually commit to these things. So you'll get people that will say that they will start, whether it's a new diet, a new fitness regime, a new budgeting, or some people haven't budgeted at all. In fact, one of my gripes is that they don't really teach budgeting at all at school for school children. And I think that is terrible because they leave school having absolutely no idea about budgeting. So one of the biggest principles to come out of all of this, by way of example, is don't just say and commit to things that you think are the right thing to say or the right things to commit to because someone else said so or because you just think that it sounds right. What you really need to do, and this is quite deep, so if it sounds all garbled, perhaps really think about it, because it does have a true meaning for me. So I hope that I'm clear in the way that it comes across. But when you commit to something, you commit to doing something, it needs to be something that you fundamentally believe is the right thing for you, not just because someone else has said so, not just because it sounds like it's the right thing. And when you commit to doing it, as they've committed here, not to increase taxes, you really do need to follow through on that. And if it's something that you can't follow through on or don't want to follow through on or is unrealistic to follow through on, you need to go back and reassess. But that is the point at which many people just give up. So the first point here is when you commit to those things, it really should be the things that you fundamentally believe in and believe that are right for you, for your reasons, not for someone else's reasons. And I'll give you an example. So sometimes when people are budgeting for things, they make this big promise and commitment that they're going to budget everything, they're going to save on everything that they can so they can eliminate debt and so on. But then when it comes to it later on, they're not necessarily completely honest with themselves, and they decide that they're going to carve this thing out or that thing out, or carve out money for a holiday, carve out money for a new sofa, new car, new something. And that is not in accordance with their fundamental commitment to eliminating debts before anything else, before any other expenditure. And so a lot of people that I know, when they get some additional money, for example, they get a bonus, they get a raise, they get some extra money, they will very often immediately splash and splurge on holidays, cars, clothing, furniture, things they don't really need, or just going out for entertainment and enjoyment instead of paying down the debts that they promised themselves that they would get rid of. And so if you fundamentally want to get out of debt, and believe me, there is no better feeling for someone when they get completely out of debt and you are literally not indebted to anybody for anything and you have complete control of your own life. That is the ultimate goal financially. And then, of course, there'll be some smarty in the comments that say that all the billionaires do, build, borrow, die. But this is on a different level. This is when they have assets that are worth billions and they can borrow against it, so they don't necessarily have the tax implications. But that's a completely different story, completely different video. Maybe we'll come back to that another time. But for most people, getting out of debt is their primary goal if they want to build wealth. And so the wisdom here is that once that becomes your fundamental goal, everything else needs to follow suit with it. So you need to then to be honest about all of the other things that you really don't need. And so to remove those expenditures and cut those out so you can stay true to that original goal. And also then by extension, that then applies to any kind of business arrangement you have, any personal arrangement that you have, whatever you commit to, you need to stick to. And if you can't stick to it for whatever reason, then it may not have been the right commitment in the first place. If you commit to a business working arrangement whereby you commit a certain amount of your time, a certain amount of your money, or both to this arrangement at the outset because you think it's the right thing to do, but then halfway along you feel some kind of resentment, it may be that it wasn't the right arrangement for you in the first place. So then you need to reassess your fundamental commitment. Was that the right thing to do and say at the outset? If not, then you need to be honest with yourself and you need to be honest with them, because you cannot commit down a path where it just isn't right for you. And again, the same is true whether it's money, fitness, whatever the ultimate commitment is, the underlying commitment. If you cannot stick to that all the way through and be the right thing, you need to fundamentally go back and reassess it. And in doing all of these things, you need some kind of a buffer. So if, let's say, you've budgeted, by the way, you can all have access for free to my budgeting spreadsheet. I'll link it below. You do need to register at blackbeltbarrister.com. Then you can log in. It's free to register and log in. There's a free download section if you look at the menu at the top. My budgeting spreadsheet, my household budget spreadsheet. It's not for financial advice purposes, but you can budget everything in there. And then you can commit to paying down debts. Now, you do need some kind of a buffer. So if you are absolutely so strict with it, it's a bit like a diet. If you're so strict with it, then realistically, it's not going to pan out very well. Because once you exceed the buffer psychologically, if it's broken, then a lot of people give up. Whether that's budgeting and financing, or whether it's a diet thing or a fitness thing, if you don't hit the steps that you promise yourself you would, or if you don't hit the calorie intake, if you're counting your calories when you promised you would. Likewise for money, if you don't commit to a certain amount, likewise with money, if you're not able to pay a certain amount down off the debts that you promised you would, then psychologically, if it's broken, then some people give up on the whole thing. So you need some kind of a buffer, but that buffer needs to be realistic. So that gives you a realistic target. So you're not being so strict that it's just impossible to achieve these things. And all of these things, by trial and error over the years, certain things work and certain things haven't worked. And I'll go into some of those stories at some point. But some of the stories have been catastrophic failures. Some of them have been near catastrophic failures, and some of them have worked very well indeed. But then you realize that all of the things you learned from the failures you put into the next thing. And it really is a case of just not giving up. I've been on YouTube since 2006. And it wasn't really until what I call my main channel, Black Belt Barrister, which was in 2020. And I launched that channel to help people understand law. So it's taken that long. My Black Belt Secrets channel is now 222,000 subscribers, but for a long, long time, it was stuck between 30 and 40,000 subscribers. And I had previously set myself the goals of achieving the silver play buttons, which are now behind me. But when it was committing to how they were going to grow, I wasn't really sure how I could commit that long and that deeply to it. So I jumped around quite a lot. And only when I committed to what it was going to be, which is why I've got the multiple channels, then it suddenly starts to work. And so you apply all of these, what I call failures, but successful failures, in that it is a success that you learn something from it and apply it going forward. I hope that helps. I hope it's somewhat clear. It might take a couple of watches to really let it sink in, but that is a genuine understanding from all the years of trial and error, trial and failure to ultimately make something a success. I hope that's helpful. Let me know in the comments if it is. And as always, thank you for watching.